Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Startup Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Edwards, and today we are exploring the intersection of two of the most significant forces of our time, artificial intelligence and the global energy transition. In 2026, the built environment remains a leading contributor to climate change, but autonomous technology is finally turning sleepy buildings into intelligent green ecosystems. Joining us today as our guest is Jean-Simon Venne, who is the founder, president, and chief technical officer at BrainBox AI. With over 25 years of experience across telecommunications, biotech, and energy, Jean-Simon is a pioneer in migrating high-tech innovations to commercial scale. Under his leadership, BrainBox AI has become a global force, recently launching a premier AI lab in Montreal in partnership with Trane Technologies. Let's dive into our conversation. Jean-Simon, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. I'm really excited to learn more about AI and how it's being applied in the HVAC field to commercial buildings, and I know that our guests are equally as excited about the topic.
Well, very happy to be on the show, Brent. Looking forward to our discussion. Hopefully, we have time to crunch everything in because I feel that there's so many things that we should talk about.
Oh, I've been looking at some of the other podcasts and articles, numerous articles that you've written on this area, and given the importance of the environment and the rise of AI, even though it really isn't as new as people think it is, it's really exciting to learn about uh, some of the concepts that you're working on, particularly this idea of a virtual building engineer. So I want to hear more about that.
Absolutely.
So, um, with the BrainBox AI Trane Technologies AI Lab this past May on the 20th, it feels like a real big shift for the entire HVAC industry. So we've got some questions for you. Jean-Simon, before we get started, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the relationship between BrainBox AI and Trane Technologies.
Yes, absolutely. BrainBox AI was a partner with Trane Technology, which means that Trane Technology was reselling our solution. So we've been working together for several years. And basically, at the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, Trane Technology acquired BrainBox. That was part of a thesis of basically combining force so we could scale the technology and deploy it much faster in a much larger quantity of building. So I very often say like there's a lot of building on this planet, um, and if we really want to scale the technology, we need to combine force. So that was the thesis. The second segment of that thesis was let's establish the AI lab in Montreal by combining all of the basically the resources at Train Technology and BrainBox together.
Oh, okay. That definitely that's important for our listeners to know. So the next question I want to ask you about is a follow-up, I guess, in terms of why Trane Technologies chose Montreal for its new AI innovation hub.
Yeah, that's a very very good question. We had a lot of discussion on this topic, and it's a very logic based decision. Um, there is like two big driver in Montreal. The first one is there's a critical mass of people that know about AI, but are like, master and PhD equipped and on the AI side. So think of IVADO, which is that consortium of all of the university in Montreal, which specialize. So they take all of the teacher and the researcher in all university, and they kind of federate them on the AI platform. Think of Mila, which was founded by
Mm,
Yoshua Bengio, also located in Montreal. Um, and you start to understand like why tons of other company established their AI lab in Montreal. So that kind of ecosystem is extremely strong. It's one of the biggest super cluster of AI in the world. So that's the number one reason. The second
hmm
reason is the creativity. So Montreal is there's a lot of creativity happening, and you saw it at the Cirque du Soleil, right? But you
Yes.
see it with Moment Factory, you see it in the video game, um, and that's very important because we're at this point with AI where AI has tons of capability. The question is, how can you assemble these different capability into a fashion or a construct that's going to really create something which is creating a lot of value or resolving important problem? And that is a creativity discussion. So we're merging AI and creativity together in Montreal, and establishing the AI lab in Montreal is kind of leveraging these two very strong points that are based in Montreal. And it's we're convinced that it's going to help Trane Technology to move forward on the AI segment in all of their business units.
Well, as someone who's in Montreal every couple of months and has seen the creativity of all different sorts in that city, it seems like a natural choice. I would have thought that the variable weather that Montreal has all four seasons and all different ways would be an impact in the age of the buildings, but it sounds like all the expertise around AI and the creativity are even
Yeah.
greater drivers of that.
So it's very interesting because I mean I'm just landing from London, UK, where I was at the AI Summit of London, um, and the number one discussion among all of the company that were part of the summit was, you know what? The secret sauce is not AI, but it's the creativity. So accelerating the creativity using AI tools. Um, and that was really the topic of the week during the summit. So I was smiling a bit, right? 'Cause I was saying like, okay, I think we're on the right track.
Well, I guess it's viewing AI as another toolkit, and it's those societies or provinces or countries that make the best use of it. So it's great to hear that Montreal and Quebec and Canada's at the center of the global AI conversations and leading the charge on industrial decarbonization. That's terrific news. So the next topic I'd like to explore with you, Jean-Simon, is around solving some of the specific built environment energy challenges with AI, and just thinking about the thousands of different types of industrial and commercial buildings, and they're all completely different. There's similarities, but some of them are completely different. So it'd be interesting to understand how autonomous AI might be the right solution for reducing energy waste in commercial buildings. So can you tell us some more?
Yeah, absolutely. So you have to look at the big picture. There's about 3 billion building on this planet, and
Wow.
it's growing. They consume about one third of the total energy that is being consumed on our planet daily. Um, but they are responsible for around 40% of the emission on this planet. So, when I look at what Boeing and Airbus and Bombardier like are doing with the airplane, I mean, they're working very hard to reduce the emission. Absolutely. When you're looking at the electrical car, you go like, okay, there is things happening in the transportation segment, but
Mm,
on the building segment, it's still very thin.
mm,
At the same time, these buildings are controlled. Like you do have a thermostat at home, and that
mhm,
thermostat is generating data. So the data is already there in the building. It's just kind of crystallized or inaccessible. So at the minute that you basically find a way to extract that data and use that data, you could then use AI tools to optimize the building operation on the heating, cooling, and ventilation of it. Um,
mm,
you could do that with humans, but it would be hard. Would be hard to basically put a human in each building, which is tweaking thing in real time, 24/7, right? Uh,
just the
Cost
resources
wise,
involved
yeah,
are going to be,
exactly. I mean,
yeah.
there's not enough building engineer, there's not enough
No.
technician in the world to, so it cannot be done. But AI, it does it for a few penny under the dollar, and it does not go on vacation, it does not sleep, and it run 24/7, and it's scale. You could do millions of building with these tools.
Wow.
So that is why. And when you do it, you kind of go shave that 20, 25% of energy. But what's fascinating is is you're not only shaving that quantity of energy that's being consumed by the building, but you're shaving even more on the emission. So it's not rare in a building we're going to shave 40% of the emission of that building um, in a given day. So suddenly you're having a huge impact with a technology that could scale to the million level in terms of building implementation. So it sounds like, this is it. This is what we should be doing.
Wow. I understand some of the inspiration for BrainBox AI came from you melding some of the developments that had been done with autonomous vehicles and looking for applications to commercial
Yeah.
buildings.
So yeah, the genesis is pretty simple. I had the pleasure to, or actually the frightening experience. Remember, like 2015,
Yes,
autonomous car. It's not
yes.
what it is today. Okay. Well,
Yes.
but you sit in one of these car and you go like, and you ask the person, yeah, you're sitting and the person is telling you like, yeah, there's 300 algorithm monitoring this. We're doing this lidar. I don't know
Oh,
how many times.
trust the system. Yes.
Yeah, but you're looking at the quantity of data and the quantity of analysis and the decision process, and you just have a few milliseconds to take a decision, right? Otherwise, you might basically squish that poor cat which is crossing the street. So,
Mhm.
so it's like you go like, and they were able to do it back then. I'm not sure if the car was at the price level that you and I
Mhm.
could buy it, but it was working. So, so it's like if you could do this, it's going to be much easier to do an autonomous building because there's a lot less parameter. And by the
Mm.
way, we don't have milliseconds to take decision, but we have minutes and minutes. So I have the
Yes.
luxury to basically manage an inertia which is much slower than managing a car in the middle of a traffic
Uh,
flow, right?
Interesting. Wow. Just
So that's
because
what the
that,
Genesis is saying. If they do it for autonomous car, we should be able to do it for
yes,
building.
that's, yeah, you just described it as simple, but it's maybe in hindsight it is, but it's very far-seeing in terms of coming up with those connections in the first place. So it's well done.
A lot of trial and error, I could tell you.
Yes, of course. So let's take a look at the real world impact of autonomous AI in buildings. And I'm going to ask you a question, but first I want to give a special message for our listeners. So, to the real estate owners and commercial operators watching in 2026, if your building's carbon footprint is your brand's reputation, if you're running HVAC on a 20th century schedule, you're losing money and missing your ESG targets. Jean-Simon and BrainBox AI are launching the new AI lab and showroom right now to show you exactly how autonomous technology can make your buildings greener and more efficient in weeks, not years. Don't wait for regulation to force your hand. Visit brainboxai.com to see how ARIA can take the heavy lifting of energy management off your plate. Turn your overhead into competitive advantage with the global leader in autonomous HVAC. So back to our conversation with Jean-Simon. Um, so in talking about ARIA, which I understand is the virtual engineer that we mentioned off the top of the podcast, can you tell us how it's different from typical AI chatbots? That may not be doing it justice, but please tell us more.
Yeah, so when you're on a general model AI chatbot, you basically have a chatbot engine which is gonna try to answer whatever question you may have on the entire universe of data that is known by humankind. Um, when you're working with a device like ARIA, it basically, first of all, ARIA is customized to really understand one topic, which is building engineering. So it is a super expert in that domain. So don't ask ARIA about what is the best cheesecake recipe. Doesn't know. Doesn't want to know. They want to talk about building engineering and how is your building right now working and what can we do to make it better. The second big difference is like ARIA is connected to a lot of specialized data. So there is the data coming from the building in real time. So it has access to all of the data of your building over the last few years, and it's reading the data in real time of your building right now. So that's something you would not have with a general chatbot. But then it's connected to several API to I'm connected to the grid API. So I know right now that the grid is selling you, because if you have a time of day rate, it's selling you the electricity at this rate. There is a peak charge right now starting, and it will finish in 3 hours. And also, there's other API telling you like how dirty the energy entering your building is. And I always like to mention them, like what time, that's an NGO in California, and what time is a partner of ours, and they feed us in an API in real time the electron that is entering your building right now. How was it produced? Is it coming from a nuclear plant, from a cold generation plant, from a solar panel? And they give
Yes.
us that information in real time. So suddenly ARIA is really able to tell you like, okay, right now, honestly, your electron are super green, but in 2 hours they're going to become super dirty. So how am I going to manage a building to shave and have to reduce the emission on it? But then we didn't stop there. Like we went like, okay, let's make sure ARIA has access to all of the binder, the equipment binder. So whatever are your HVAC equipment that you have in your building,
Hmm.
we're making sure that ARIA has access to all of these binder, the manufacturer binder.
Wow.
So it basically knows like
That's a
that pump,
huge amount of, like, the number
yeah,
of
yeah, that
devices we're
pump.
talking about is enormous.
Yeah, so he's basically looking at the pump, and
Yep.
basically, well, the manufacturer is saying if I see this type of behavior on the pump, it means this or this according to the manufacturer binder. And then it starts to go, oh, that's not a good thing. Here's what the manufacturer is telling me that we should do in this case. And then it basically starts to help you manage your asset in a much more optimized way.
Wow, it's amazing, and just even the reporting that you're getting. I'm sure that for ESG targets and for multiple building operators
Absolutely.
is just like
Absolutely.
that's phenomenal.
And
Yeah.
most of the time, people are losing. With the time you're losing when you're, and it start by it's too hot at this place in the building, right? So you go, okay, why is it too
Yes,
hot? So,
I've heard those
and
complaints.
so
Too hot,
whoever's
too
gonna,
cold.
yeah, whoever is asked to basically figure out why is it too hot, 80% of the time will be lost in finding the root cause, right? Like
Hmm.
trying to understand why. What's like doing the fact check, checking this, checking that, and eventually we'll discover that oh, it's that belt which is slipping on that fan. But that may be 1 hour or 2 hour before you discover the root cause. So ARIA is doing that work, and it's telling you, I looked at it in a few milliseconds, right? I looked at it, and you know what? I'm 93% convinced that you should check that belt.
Wow, it sounds like it makes building management so much more proactive than reactive, and in terms of the tenants
Yeah.
or questions or complaints that they would have. So that's it's an enormous change, I suspect, in the industry.
And compared to the fact also, if you factor in the fact that there is a huge shortage of labor in that field,
Mm,
suddenly you're starting to go, okay, right time, right thing to basically
at the right
help
moment,
help the industry to do a better job.
and help the climate as well.
Yeah.
Wow. So our next topic is about responsibility of innovating at the intersection of AI and climate. So question for you, Jean-Simon, is around: how does climate responsibility influence the way that BrainBox AI builds technology?
Well, I would say that it's part of our DNA at BrainBox. We're a bit completely freak about it. So algorithm in the cloud. So the first thing that the team at BrainBox will go, okay, wait a sec. I want to calculate what will be the computing of that algo in the cloud. So I figure out, okay, I'm reducing that many kilowatt in the building of the customer, but I'm generating new kilowatt by running that algo in the cloud. So I want to measure it, compare the two, and always come with the balance, like the net total of what are we really saved if you
Mm,
basically add up what was increased by energy in the cloud. So the entire team at BrainBox is always like looking at, I want to basically make sure that I want to save as much emission as possible. Um,
yes.
and sometime emission is not equal to energy. So what algo we will really have the maximum impact on emission. So it could serve the CFO or it
Mm-hmm.
could not serve the CFO necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So and very often like we see our algo and they basically it's a multi-objective, right? It's a multi-objective equation. So I want to save emission. I have natural gas coming in the building. I have electricity coming in the building. Electricity is green. Gas is not that green. Um, which one should I reduce the most to get the saving in dollar, but also get maximum of
Yes.
emission reduction? And these balance equation are something that we pay a lot of attention to.
Wow. Well, I think it's having a dashboard, and any in your senior executives, there's usually potentially conflicting objectives, but they want to have the data, the information in front of them, so they
Yep.
can make a business decision, and be able to decide. And I think it sounds like ARIA is bringing the information right in front of them.
Area was like, okay, we're gonna help the people to do root cause analysis and fix more problem per day. That was
Hmm.
great, but then we realized that we were also reducing the number of truck roll. So sometime a
So
technician,
the number
the
of
truck
what?
roll, what we say in the industry, the truck roll, which means somebody's calling you saying it's too hot in my store. As a technical service provider, you're going to probably go like, well, I'm going to have to send somebody on site. So you send somebody on site. The technician goes on site, does the root cause analysis, and then discover that he needs to change that part number, but he does not have the part number in the truck. So he's
Yes.
coming back, and tomorrow morning he's going to go back to the store to replace the part. So problem fixed, but it required two truck roll to fix
Yes.
it. So with ARIA, we're cutting down one of these. You still have to go on site to replace a part. ARIA will not do that
Yes.
part, but you're cutting the first truck roll. Then we start to look at it and like, well, what was the gas? You did have to drive 30 miles. Wait a sec, like we remove a truck from the road for that 30-mile trip. You want to save the planet? So suddenly we're also aiding the transportation sector to do their job, right? So it's um, it's quite fascinating how you could rapidly have an impact in outside of the building sector, like the real estate sector.
Well, I think it's making, planet positive outcomes through the technology, and looking at the bigger picture beyond the building itself in
Yeah.
terms of all the resources required to run them efficiently. So the last topic I want to speak with you about is around the future of smart buildings and connected cities. And I'm wondering if you can give us your thoughts on how you think autonomous AI is going to reshape commercial buildings over the course of the next decade.
No, absolutely, and it's something that is I've been watching for the last few years. So I'm going to give you an example, and I'm sure you're gonna quickly see the value is like. So picture Toronto, right? If we're modulating three building in Toronto, these building will save energy within these three building, it's fine. But if suddenly I'm modulating 1,000 building in Toronto, and then suddenly I connect these 1,000 building in Toronto to Toronto Hydro and Hydro One, and I tell them it is at your disposal. You could make them dance the way you would like.
Yeah.
So we could avoid starting that dirty power generation plant this
Hmm.
afternoon. So having that clustering together, which is kind of following as one objective what the grid and the production side of the energy would like to see to basically have a much larger impact on the emission. Because if that dirty power generation plant does not start this afternoon to go through the afternoon peak in Toronto, well, you just save a lot of emission that given day. So that for me is the future, right? So it all goes with the install base. So when are you
Hmm.
reaching a critical mass in a given area where you could start to basically make that equation viable for the production and the distribution of energy in that sector?
Yeah, and for someone who's been exposed over the last few years to, the energy grid in Ontario, and understanding like the mix, whether that is nuclear or natural gas, other renewable sources. The measuring of demand is so important in terms of demand on both the transmission lines and also for the generators in the province. I know that's something that they focus on a lot, especially as we get into the summer and peak
Yes.
demand with all the air conditioning,
Uh,
etc. Keep things
it's
cool
but
here.
they have the same problem in New York, and New York is a classic case where transportation is a big issue because to put a new transportation line is extremely expensive. To put a new power generation plant anywhere around New York is
Mhm.
a nightmare. I mean, there's just like nobody wants it. Nobody
Yeah.
has the any taste to build one. So so then what do you do? But they keep building more tower, right, in Manhattan. So you go like, okay, but there's something here that does not click, right? So how are we supposed to do this? Like, so and that's the equation that's many places. We have the same situation in California, same situation in Germany, where there is a very interesting case where you could start to have a real full optimization from the demand all the way to production, or should I say production all the way to demand. Um, but then you start to modulate in real time, and you optimize what we produce, what we transport, what we distribute, and what we
Uh,
consume.
yeah, there's so many connections in with the broader energy industry in terms of what you're doing. That's amazing. I have one wrap up question for you, Jean-Simon, before our time comes to an end, and that is, what advice would you give business owners starting their own energy transition journey?
Um, I would say that AI is very good at crunching numbers, and as real estate owner, you have already the data in your building. So use tools, use tools with that data, basically optimize your asset. Um, there is an extraordinary opportunity to optimize asset, and this is true in the transportation industry. It's true in the real estate industry. It's true in several other industries. There is a great opportunity basically optimize the way we use our asset and shave dollar, yes, but shave a lot of emission. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit. And the real estate industry and the HVAC industry, it's an industry. I like to say that you think that the bank are conservative. Well, real estate is even more conservative. And HVAC is the same on that level. So the open up the creativity and start trial things. Do your prototype and move forward. Um, there's a great opportunity to do things better.
Well, it sounds like, as you were saying earlier, this the creativity that exists, in Montreal, in Quebec, in Canada, to harness some of this technology. And I think I was reading you'd also mentioned about, we were talking about autonomous cars, and some vehicles get replaced every few years. However, these buildings, some of them were here before we were born. They're going to be here after we're long after we're gone. And if there's a way that we can be smarter about how we're managing these critical assets to our industry and commercial enterprises, I think that's excellent news.
Yeah,
I want to thank. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think for me the key message is like, um, don't be scared to innovate.
Mm.
Don't be scared to innovate.
Well, I think that's a good message for all you business owners out there who have been listening to my conversation with Jean-Simon Venne. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
No, my great pleasure. Anytime, if you want me to come back, it will be my pleasure.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you so much. That was Jean-Simon Venne from BrainBox AI, and you've just had a masterclass in autonomous HVAC technology. You've learned about the future of built environment and why Montreal is leading the global AI transition in 2026. I want to thank you for tuning in to today's Startup Growth Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and visit startupgrowth.ca for more insights, resources, and conversations designed to help founders and businesses scale with clarity. To learn more about how we are supporting entrepreneurs and building a stronger startup ecosystem, please explore the platform at startupgrowth.ca. I'm your host, Brent Edwards, and we'll see you on our next episode. Thank you.